Well, good morning, guys. Today I'm going to do a simple repair on a pocket door. Once you've done a few of these, you'll realize they're all pretty much the same. When you do this job, you'll almost certainly need to remove some of the casings. If you're lucky, there'll be a single panel that you just have to remove. In my case, that wasn't the case, and so I had to remove the casing on the top here. You'll probably be able to get by with removing the casing just on one side. And so if you're not sure which side to use, pick the side with the poorest lighting, so that if there are minor paint defects afterwards, you don't have to repaint the whole wall. Surprisingly enough, the most important part of this job is to be very careful when you remove the casings. These are held on with a combination of caulk, usually white caulk, to seal the cracks and minor imperfections to create a professional job, and glue. And so when the casing is pulled off, use a putty knife and an X-Acto knife and very carefully tease it off. On the one hand, you don't want to tear the drywall paper or cut the drywall paper. And on the other hand, if you pull back and it's glued on, the drywall paper will pull off and you'll end up having to repair a defect that otherwise would have been a simple job. Once you get the door off, the sliders come off very easily. All of the pocket doors I've ever worked on have a little gap here to allow you to remove these sliders and exchange them. In my case, the second slider was deep in the door, and so I needed to use a long stick to retrieve it. But otherwise, it was a pretty simple repair. Well, here's some detail as to how my system works. Of course, every system is different, but in my system, the bolt just slides on here. So to get the door off its tracks, you just slide it off. And of course, it's got a little locking nut to hold it in place once it's in the right position. Well, most of these systems have two rollers, and they all have some sort of a height adjustment to vary the height of the door. In my case, that height adjuster screwed itself off completely and the door came off its tracks, and I don't need to replace any hardware. You can replace these rollers if you need to. Now you can see that when you adjust the length of these bolts up here, that changes the way the door hangs, and so will have an effect on the crack underneath the door, and so you want that roughly symmetrical. And of course, as a double check, you want the apposition against the wall to be square as well. And it looks pretty good here. Any minor abnormality here will be hidden by the door jamb. Once you're happy with the length, then you tighten these lock nuts down to secure it in place so it doesn't slip off its supports again. Then after that, you put on the molding and you're done. Now, if you want a professional looking result, the next part is the most important part. You need to scrape off all the old glue and scrape off the caulking and remove the nails. If the previous carpenter used brad nails, it's usually fairly easy to tap them out from behind with fairly minimal cosmetic damage to the front surface. But in this case, the previous carpenter used a stapler and an air nailer, and in that case often these nails don't have the diameter to permit them to be banged out from behind. They just bend over. I wouldn't waste a lot of time with that. I would just cut them off flush and then use new brad nails to finish the job. Of course, you don't need a pin nailer to do this job, but it makes it a little bit easier. Well, once the moldings are nailed back into place, then I use a small volume of paintable caulk to conceal the nail holes and minor gaps. This is what I use. I would avoid using tub and tile caulk because it tends to pick up dust in the air and it discolors over the coming years. If I don't use the whole canister and I want to save it, then I cap the end off with tuck tape. That's that red tape used for vapor barriers to provide an airtight seal. Of course, any carpenter will tell you that you don't use caulk or filler as a substitute for a skilled jointery, and if you use too much of it, it may show up as a finish defect when you later paint. Say, if I helped you out today and earned your like, then let me know. Feedback makes it easier for others to find these videos. Thanks for watching.